Hi, and welcome back to Extra, your weekly LGBTQIA+ news roundup, in which I serve you all the tea so that you don't have to do the deep diving yourself. This video is going live on Boxing Day in the UK, and I hope you are as cozy as I am. I'm in my PJs, and other than like wearing makeup, I have done very little today. And I hope the same is true for you. So get cozy, because today we've got politics, culture, science and business, and of course, as always, our awards segment with the slay and the ew of the week. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoy this content, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with some good news, the Thai cabinet has approved a draft of a same-sex marriage bill. Said bill aims to replace the wording of husband and wife for marriage and replace it with just whatever the Thai word is for spouse, and give queer couples all of the same rights as heterosexual couples currently enjoy. Everything from inheritance over healthcare, tax benefits, all the way to child adoption. It's a blanket marriage equality bill, which is really amazing news. The Thai parliament has 371 members, and 360 of them, meaning the overwhelming majority, has voted in favor of this bill. Once this law comes into effect, Thailand will be the third Asian nation to have legalized same-sex marriage after Taiwan and Nepal. And the only question mark here really is, what took you so long? Because a population survey among the Thai people actually showed that 96% of the population is in favor of legalizing same-sex marriage. But anyway, better late than never. On a more serious note, here in the UK, the murder trial of transgender teenage girl Brianna Ghey has been going on, and actually has come to a conclusion a few days ago, with the two teenagers who were suspected of her murder actually being found unanimously guilty in court. Brianna's body back then was found after having been stabbed 28 times in what many news outlets have called a frenzied murder. And two of her schoolmates, who have been getting referred to as Girl X and Boy Y in order to protect their identities, both 16 years old, have been the primary suspects and have now been convicted. There has been a staggering amount of evidence against them, text message exchanges between the two of them where they're plotting their murder, text messages in which they refer to Brianna as it. Utterly inhumane. I'm sure most people do, but I find this utterly horrifying that two teenagers are capable of something so horrible. How much hate does someone have to carry in them in order to be able to stab someone 28 times? The sentencing hearing for the two teenagers will take place on the 2nd of February, and the court has decided to also release their names on that day, so we'll know exactly who Girl X and Boy Y are. I think this is my 10th video. I've only been doing this for 3 months now, and in every other video, I am talking about a prominent murder case of a queer person, which only means the death of someone who's actually made it into mainstream media, which just goes to show how far we have yet to come to combat homophobia and transphobia, and also the influence that the words from our politicians and our leaders have. The more hate gets airtime from politicians and political leaders, the more these kinds of things happen. There's been an incredible increase in transphobic and homophobic crime in the US and in the UK in the past few years, and especially with the current crackdown on the transgender community. So if somebody close to you makes homophobic or transphobic comments and it is safe for you to do so, please call them out on it. Our language and our words truly matter, and no matter what that person's stance is, surely most of us can agree that we don't condone murder. Hollywood actress Cate Blanchett has launched a career advancement program specifically for women, trans, and non-binary people in film. The Proof of Concept Accelerator program is a collaboration between Cate Blanchett's film production company Dirty Films and the Annenberg Inclusion Institute, which I believe is of the University of Southern California. The idea was sparked when Cate herself found herself on a film set where she was the only woman, and she was so shocked by that experience that it unmistakably signaled to her that we need more representation and more inclusion of women and genderqueer people on film sets.
And a lot of economic analyses. And if you have a woman, right, in a leading role, for example, you typically receive lower production costs, lower marketing costs, and your films are typically shown in fewer theaters in the US and internationally.
The program is set up to support up to 8 filmmakers during the start of their career, with both mentoring from established industry professionals and a $50,000 budget in order to be able to produce a pilot of either a feature-length film or a series and get that off the ground. This program is designed to challenge the aversion in the industry to women's and trans people's perspectives. I think it's fair to say that there's been great progress made in terms of female representation, at least in terms of the characters in films and media. I can't speak to how many women are actually working on set kind of behind the scenes. But if you think about any of the trans inclusion and the non-binary inclusion that we've seen, a lot of it has been on the sidelines. Even in Heartstopper, which is inherently queer at its very core, the central characters are gay, bi. They're not trans or genderqueer. Those tend to be the kind of supporting characters. So I'm very much in favor of this program, and I hope that it brings us lots of really interesting and new perspectives from which to see the world. I personally think that's the most beautiful thing about the performing arts and the visual arts, is that they offer a different perspective, a different way to see the world. And films and TV are such a great way to get people to empathize for other people's situations. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what comes of this program. The already disappointing British government has recently released new guidance for trans school children. This guidance, in essence, is really quite transphobic. It stresses the importance of biological sex. It stipulates that teachers must inform a student's parents if that student has any intention about transitioning. It suggests teachers and classmates don't honor a student's wishes to use different pronouns if that student is still in primary school and of primary school age. The document also positions the existence of trans people as an ideology.
You're ignorant and insulting and small,
which is problematic and also untrue for so many reasons. I personally am a little bit stunned that anyone even deems this necessary. According to the 2021 UK census, about 0.5% of the UK population identify as being trans or genderqueer. 0.5% means 1 in 200 people. How many of the children who will become queer adults will even come to question that as young as primary school age? And actually, the overwhelming majority of minors who get referrals to the gender identity clinic are ages 13 and over. So why are people so worried about a primary school child exploring gender? I don't understand what is so dangerous about a child's curiosity to ask somebody about, you know, the possibility of using different pronouns or a different nickname, or even just dressing slightly differently. All of these things will now be looked at with a kind of hyper-aware eye due to this new guidance, when it's just part of growing up and exploring who you are. And we're robbing children of quite fundamental experiences. This is the halfway point of this video, and I'm jumping in here to say that if you are enjoying this content, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let's get back to the content. And finally, what I want to say also is having to inform a child's family and their parents if a child even utters the tiniest thing resembling a wish to transition is so dangerous for that child. So many children come from unstable families, and there are kids from abusive backgrounds where anything that goes against the parents' ideas of what the kid should be might genuinely result in that child's finding themselves homeless. So much potential trauma. I don't know if our government and the people who are behind this bill have thought about any of that at all. I don't know if, actually, I highly doubt that the children's well-being is actually at the core of their thinking. I can no longer be surprised. There was an interview with Rishi Sunak, who is the UK Prime Minister, where he actually denied that there's any inequality in the UK, which is insane to me. 20% of the country live in poverty.
Do some research.
How you can be so out of touch while also being the political leader of a nation is shameful. Anyway, all this to say, there is again this big commotion about trans kids when it's such a rare thing. The numbers speak for themselves. On a lighter note, in the US, a new initiative has been launched called the Queer Liberation Library. It's an online library that is freely accessible to all and in all US states that seeks to combat the influence of the book bans across the US and make queer literature available to everyone and anyone. Something that I think is a really great feature, actually, and shows that whoever built this website put a lot of thought into it, is that it has a quick exit button. So if a kid or a teenager is browsing this website in an environment where it would be unsafe for them to be found doing so, there's a quick exit button and that website just disappears, nowhere to be found for whatever adult or classmate or whatever just walked in. So that's really amazing. Safeguarding the children while also giving them access to important literature and source material in which they can either find themselves represented in fiction, or also there's so many of those books are kind of first guidance of, you know, you might have thoughts that you might be queer, you're kind of questioning your sexuality, but you don't know where to start, and there's nobody you can talk to in real life and ask important questions. It's so important to have access to literature that illustrates some of those things for you and just makes you feel a little bit more seen and clues you in a little bit more. So yeah, really, really great initiative. And it makes me really happy that there are people like that out there who put good work out into the world purely for the benefit of others. A report conducted by Stonewall Cymru, which is Welsh for Wales, has shown that 34% of the country of Wales are queer, meaning that 34% of people in a specific survey have answered a question about sexuality saying that they are not exclusively attracted to the opposite gender. I think a third of a country being queer is just amazing and just highlights how important it is that we talk about the queer community and that we are included in lawmaking and not just an afterthought. If 34% of a population identifies as queer in some way, then you are neglecting a third of the population by failing to talk about queer issues. And finally, a new report from the International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans and Intersex Association has shown that only 6 countries worldwide, 6 of the world's 197 countries, have any kind of protections in place, legal protections, for intersex people, and to protect them from non-consensual surgical procedures. A lot of the surgeries that intersex people are subjected to are in order to assimilate their sexual organs and their physical appearance to more socially accepted ideas of what male or female genitalia look like when that might not be medically necessary. And even the countries that have laws in place, a lot of those laws are worded in a way that medically necessary is kind of a gray area. And also it's not just about medical procedures, it is also about recognizing intersex people as a full human and granting them rights to marriage, because so many countries define marriage as a union between a man and a woman. If somebody is biologically intersex, that person is at a legal disadvantage just as a human in society, just because they're born with different chromosomes. And I also want to use this just to make a point about how being non-binary and being transgender cannot possibly be unnatural if nature produces intersex people, who by definition are neither man nor woman, who by definition have different chromosomes from the kind of standard XXXY, and that can have many variations. The existence of intersex people in itself is proof that being genderqueer is natural. Back to the report at hand, it's shocking, absolutely shocking, that only 6 countries worldwide have any legal protection for intersex people. And I hope that this report being issued and people actually putting research and time into this will also lead to more people advocating for intersex rights across the globe, and that will lead to legal reform in many countries that seeks to protect intersex people further, to grant them the same rights as everybody else. And that brings us to our awards segment. As always, we've got the Slay of the week, and we also have the Ew of the week. Let's start with the Ew so that we can finish our Christmas video on a high note. The Ew of the week goes to the UK government, not for the first time, for continuing to target the trans community when they aren't a threat to anybody.
Why are you the way that you are?
It is all such an unnecessary waste of resources, time, and effort, and energy. If by any random chance of the universe Kemi Badenoch ends up seeing this, shame on you. Shame on you. Go and find some joy in life and get rid of that ugly hate in your heart, okay?
Trust me, people aren't thinking about you the way that you're thinking about you.
But in better news, the Slay of the week goes to the Queer Liberation Library, because I just think it's wonderful that people are putting so much time and thought and resources into making queer literature available for teenagers who are being subject to such a hateful government and hateful state leadership, that they are being robbed of information and of representation and of, exploration, of seeing themselves reflected in literature, of learning about themselves. If you can't access something in a school library, if you can't talk to your teachers about it, you may not have family that you can talk to about it. We all know that kids can be assholes and teenagers can be assholes, the chance that they don't feel safe discussing this with their friends is pretty high. Where are they going to get that info, and before they get it on various sites or internet forums, which aren't always the most trustworthy, and I'm sure a 13, 14-year-old kid wouldn't know how to safely navigate the internet and how to tell a reliable source from a corrupted one.
Oh man, bad idea, Jeans.
I just think it's amazing that there are people out there who put their resources and their time and energy into making something for the benefit of others and not for any gain of their own, other than to do some good in the world. So big snaps to the people behind the Queer Liberation Library. Thank you for your work. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this Christmassy video. Tell your friends about me if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have yourself a lovely rest of this week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.